Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 21, The Muse. Jake nearly dies after trying to write a novel in a week-long writing binge, and Odo marries Laxana.
You sounded disappointed even reducing that plot to a few words.
Well, this episode and disappointment are no strangers. Well, okay, what did you think of it?
It's not great.
No, not really. What isn't great about it?
There's not much going on, and it includes a character that has I can never say her name. Laxwana?
Yeah.
Has she ever been?
Laxana.
Has she ever been in a quality episode?
Well, no, not really. Some of the episodes with her are amusing, but she's a kind of deliberately goofy character. It's funny that you mention that her name is hard to say because her husband gets it wrong when he first walks into security.
You're the changeling. Odo, if I remember correctly.
And what of it?
Laxwana told me all about you.
So you're saying this episode was boring and lacked anything of interest or any tension of any kind?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. There's no tension. Jake is kind of secretly dying, and I don't care much for Elle because I don't want to say her name. Although having your child taken away is really sad.
Yes, and also very stupid.
How
does
is it
that
stupid?
make sense? Well, okay, child's or having a baby doesn't just stop at birth. There's also breastfeeding, and when you have a tradition like this, you immediately think, okay, this tradition is going to be very, very old. So how does it work?
Synthetic materials.
Well, okay, you can replicate breast milk, I imagine, but there's a lot more to breastfeeding than just nutrition. But you'd expect the tradition of separating male children from their mothers to be thousands of years old or something. But it doesn't make any sense. It's not a very believable plot device.
I did like the woman who played Onaya. She was creepy and sinister and I guess alluring. I could see why Jake went for it.
She was actually good. To be fair, there's quite a lot of good things about this episode. The scenes between Odo and Laxana were reasonably touching for what it's worth. I mean, I didn't care at all, but I could have been more bored. The music and stuff, they tried to make something with what they had.
It's too bad that we have unfortunate history between Odo and her, because what they did here was, as you said, pretty touching, especially where he declares his love for her. Odo even convinced me I would not have objected. But, well, so this is the best interaction between the two that we've seen.
When you say you wouldn't have objected, how badly put together was that idea? So this guy basically just has to say, I don't believe you, and then everything's fine for him.
Yeah.
And so he says, I don't believe you, and Odo just says, well, I really mean it. He just sort of stands there, hangs his head and goes, oh, okay. And then afterwards, like, yeah, I can't believe it, we did it. Oh, what a tense moment that was.
It's a super contrived way to get Odo to profess his love.
But he was lying anyway. Or partially lying. It's stupid because I don't see why their law would apply outside of their jurisdiction.
Surely there's something about having to marry another whatever that person was. What's his race?
Something.
Tavnian.
Yeah, there's no way you could marry outside of them if they have laws like that.
Well, he was supposed to be a moderate, but then he turned out to be an extremist. But then he turned out to be very reasonable anyway.
So this one-off character had the most character development.
Or, well, the least, maybe. Least consistent character. The actor was actually the same actor that played Kang in Blood Oath. The voice kind of gives it away.
It is one distinctive voice. He has a presence.
Yeah, he's good. Like, that's something that's good about this episode. Jao and Onaya are both played by actors that really kind of nailed their personas. They just had nothing to work with, though. Like, the plot didn't go anywhere interesting. They were good, and if this episode had been more substantial and a bit more involving for the viewer, it could have been okay.
Alternatively, imagine if they got bad actors to play these bad parts, and this would have been a disaster.
It would have been in the running for one of the worst episodes if it wasn't for some of the reasonable stuff that peppered it.
So I picked up on some little details that are strange and I want to bring up. One of them is right in the beginning. Jake is observing people in the promenade and he's free-flowing with ideas for characters. And he mentions a guy having a toupee. Why do toupees still exist? We've already seen that physical modifications are trivial. Kiro is completely transformed.
I never thought of that. That's a
Why?
good point.
They could just graft on hair immediately. No trouble.
It would be an outpatient procedure.
Why would
Just
they have
walk
toupees?
2 minutes later, yep, full flowing locks.
Oh, this won't do. I need a fake rug. Oddly placed atop my head. Second odd thing that came up. So she wants to sit down, Laxwana. Odo says, I don't have any furniture. That's normal. Why would he? He's a shapeshifter. Sitting is just him mimicking humans.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch. But then I thought, wait, why is Odo sitting down all the time then in the security office? Why does he have a chair? Wouldn't he want to be standing so he could spring into action at any time? But then I thought even further, and he probably sits down so he could dramatically spin in the chair because otherwise he couldn't do that. And he even sort of does that in this episode.
He could just stand behind the security desk and make his legs short. I noticed something a bit weird. Jake goes over to Onaya's place to do writing.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, he needs to do a good write. And then she does her brain sucking thing and he's writing away. And then she says, oh, you better go home. Your dad's going to be home soon. But he was away for 3 days.
Oh, that was after 3 days?
Yeah, Cisco says he's...
You mean you really want to pass up 3 days in the Bajoran outback?
But I didn't realize all that time had passed already by that point.
Yeah, well, he says he's going to go over that night, and then he goes over. It could have been separate days or something, but it looked like he just stayed there for 3 days. Because the whole Odo wedding took place in between, and Jake was still in the room writing the whole time.
Well, he did mention being almost done with the novel, so that makes sense that he was sitting there and writing.
You would have to. There's no way you could write a novel in a week by hand.
By the way, he has excellent handwriting for someone who has never seen paper.
Yeah, I thought that. I thought they maybe got a hand model to do the handwriting, but I think that really was Sir Lofton's handwriting.
Well done.
He has good handwriting even for someone who has used paper.
Yeah, I don't know why I qualified it.
Well, if he hadn't used paper, then it's exceptional. He's gifted, and he shouldn't be writing novels. He should be doing calligraphy.
Oh, I have a few more weird things that I want to bring up.
I'm sure you do. There's quite a few in this episode. Well, on you go.
So, Laxwana and Odo play a game, sort of, I guess, where Odo shapeshifts into something and then she tries to discover where Odo is. How would that be fun at all? It's impossible. He even shows why it's impossible. He shapeshifted into a surface, so you can't even rely on looking strictly for new items in the room. He could be anything.
They said previously that if a shapeshifter turns into a rock, a tricorder would say it was a rock. So how could a person know?
It's completely random.
Okay, so it's just a really impossible game.
Even if you guess right, you guessed. There's no way you arrived at your decision in some kind of clever way. Yet somehow she says she never had as much fun before or something.
Yeah. Oh, this is so much fun. What's the score? Oh, it's 258-0.
Another weird thing I picked up on.
Okay.
Onaya mentions that she's done this over and over again where she trains an artist. She mentions Keats, and I thought, oh, that's a nice mention. He died
It's a sci-fi
young.
triple.
He died tragically young. But then I thought, well, she hasn't shown that she can change her appearance. So was Keats into alien women with large foreheads? So I started imagining Keats hanging around this woman.
She just wore a burqa. Well, she mentions Catullus as well, which I think is supposed to be the name of a Roman poet.
Okay, so I wasn't familiar with the other one.
You've got your classic sci-fi triple there, Catullus, Tarbald, Keats. But it's in a weird order because it should be Catullus, Keats, Tarbald. Tarbald is actually a poet they've mentioned before, back in the very first episode of the original series.
Oh wow, so, that's a deep cut.
Yeah, two of them are real and one's an alien, so that's classic sci-fi triple. But yes, now that you point it out, maybe she can shapeshift. She just made a form that was appealing to Jake. She turns into energy, so you'd think that she could.
But maybe she can only go between energy in that state. But that makes sense, what you said. That maybe she chose that shape to lure Jake specifically.
I don't know. We've seen Jake's taste in women. Well, he does like older women, so yeah, maybe she did. Do you think that writers writing a story about a wannabe writer writing whilst a illustrious woman strokes them, and then everyone says their writing is really good, is maybe a little bit self-absorbed?
Possibly.
Maybe the most self-absorbed thing ever written. Something that bugs me about Jake is that we never see him reading.
He's implanted all of literature into his head. He reads in his mind.
I see.
Yeah, we never see him reading. and we only see him writing in writing episodes.
I'm not saying that you can't be a great writer without reading a lot, but it sure helps.
You want good sentences tumbling around between your ears.
Well, as with any skill, you need to immerse yourself in it. You can't just come at it in a vacuum and expect to be better than the collective.
He's only writing when it's related to the plot, which is bothersome.
One nice touch is that the novel he started on, Anselm, is the novel that he wrote in The Visitor.
Okay, I was hoping that was true. I couldn't remember what it was in The Visitor, so thank you for confirming that.
Yes, it's Anselm. The best book ever.
Oh, one thing I loved in this episode was Worf's face and, and how he looks hilariously detached while Laxwana talks about dreams being shattered.
He only had one line, but he almost stole the entire episode.
Yeah.
Would you like to go for a walk? I would. So, would you say this episode is a clunker?
I would not classify this as a
What?
clunker.
It obviously is, though. You're wrong.
It's so close to being a clunker for me, but I didn't hate it.
But it was so hateable.
There are a lot of hateable things in there.
I guess it's because I've seen the show a few times. Some of the more kind of badly paced ones start to really drag when you know what's going to happen.
If I'm forced to pick a clunker out of what we've seen in season 4, this is obviously the choice so far.
Well, yes. Do you have any other obvious statements?
It's just my way.
Hey, he did it his way. I don't like that they used nosebleeds to imply brain problems.
Why is that?
Is that even medically accurate?
I've never had the magic lady rub my head, so I don't know.
Exactly. I don't really have anything else to say about this one. Do you have anything else?
I have a quote.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
This one is approved by Freud. Life is a search to find the peace you once had when you were... Wait, am I missing a word here?
That's not what they said.
Life is a search to find the peace you once had when you were inside your mother. Is that right? That sounds... I think I'm missing a word. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
In context, it makes sense.
He is actually missing the word safe.
Life is a search to find the peace you once had when you were safe inside your mother.
Oda says he never had a mother, but how does he know that? Does he even know how changelings reproduce?
Yes. Do they reproduce? Or do they just...
he's new, so yes.
Is he new? Do we know?
Yeah, he was sent out by the Great Link guys.
Well, I'm trying to reconcile that with what we've seen. They're just in a lake, right? How do you make new lake sections? Is it...
I don't know, maybe they grow like pond algae or something.
Alright.
Here's a quote for you.
Okay.
The dialogue is sharp, the story's involving, the characters are real, but the spelling is terrible.
And yeah, so is the rhythm of that.
Well, I just thought it's funny that Cisco is praising his novel so much in what I think is quite a badly written episode.
Was it the writers trying to hypnotize us? Trying to implant the idea that this episode was actually well written?
Well, yeah, they may have just been patting themselves on the back even more than they had for the rest of the episode.
This episode is all about codependency. She says you just need someone to help you bring it to the surface, that it's inside of him and whatever. So the writers are helping us understand that this episode is actually great.
They just need us to love it.
And the same thing with the other plot line. She tells Odo, what you want is company, someone to take care of, someone who is dependent on you.
Yeah, it was originally 4 plot lines to do with all the... Okay, might as well add this on since there's not much else to say about this episode. When it was originally written, it was about 4 couples, Cisco and Cassidy Yates, Keiko and O'Brien, Loaxana and Odo, and Rom and Lita? Maybe? Anyway, 3 of those got cut and the Jake episode got merged in.
Oh. That did seem to come out of nowhere when she said that.
This whole episode should go back to nowhere. The director of the episode said it was the worst episode he directed, and he did about 60 odd.
Ooh.
He said that the actress, what's her face, was good.
Meg Foster.
She's. I'm assuming you mean Onaya, who played her.
Yeah. Shall we move on to the next episode?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, I'm going to do that in a week or something.
Or a couple of days, depending.
Yes, every Monday and Thursday. Bye.
Bye.